I want to welcome everybody to this year's Haggard Award winners reception. This is the event that I call the unofficial kickoff to the NRECA annual meeting. Tonight, we are here to put a spotlight on Shannon Brock and her team at Kentucky Living. Shannon has only been the editor of the magazine for about a year. She's been at the statewide for about 6 or 7. But she has, as the editor, she has really impressed the statewide editors group for her. She's bright. She's highly organized. She's a total professional, and she really is the sort of the who we're passing the torch to as we go forward. She's volunteered for several things within the association, including helping organize our monthly virtual roundtable meetings. And she has taken on the massive task of planning the statewide editors institute in Louisville later this year. So huge. So yeah, sorry. You got 5 more months. One more thing I wanted to say is that as I was writing these remarks, it occurred to me that Shannon is actually the first Haggard winner from among a new wave of editors that have come on board at the magazines. There are, by my count, about 15 new editors who have come on board within the last 4 or 5 years. That's about half the publications that have new editors. So there's a lot of new blood out there. There's a lot of new ideas and a lot of great energy. And this win for Shannon and all the things that she and her colleagues who are new to these magazines represent, I think bodes very well for where these publications are going. So it's good times, and I have a lot of hope for the future of statewide magazines. Now, as always, we have NRECA CEO Jim Matheson with us tonight to help give out this award. Jim, thanks so much for being here. I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. Well, thank you, Scott. And you mentioned you wouldn't give an extension. I'm glad I didn't have you for a professor in college. I never would have graduated. And one more comment, Scott. Since my wife comes from this town, it's not Louisville. And since I've got some Kentucky, it's Louisville. Yeah. Right? Okay, thank you. It's one thing I've learned in 40 years of marriage. So. Well, as Scott indicated, tonight we are here to honor Shannon Brock and her whole team at Kentucky Living Magazine for winning the 2023 George Haggard Award. And this is the second time in the last decade where Kentucky has won this award. And there's a pattern here because in the last decade, that ties them with Oklahoma, Ohio, and Missouri, who have all won it twice during this past 10-year stretch. So there's some healthy competition and some great quality out there across the cooperative network. All really impressive in terms of what those magazines do. And it's a really competitive environment. So kudos to Kentucky on this accomplishment. And I also would like to note that this award's been around for 65 years. And this is only the 9th time that a woman has won this award. So congratulations for that. We got some work to go to even out those numbers, but we've got the right trend. I have to say that there's a long legacy of Kentucky Living being a great magazine. They put together a strong emphasis on a lot of the principles that the Haggard Award defines, which is forthrightness, clarity, and a balance in advancing the objectives of electric cooperatives. They're consistently near the top in the judging for this award. As Scott said, there's so many great, it's real tight between everyone, but Kentucky's always right there. So there's a great tradition, and it's great to see next generation editor continuing that great tradition. The team really did raise the bar in 2023. They produced a magazine that continued to be visually attractive and relevant to readers, but they also took on some complex and sometimes some controversial topics. And they're not afraid to share different ideas and different viewpoints. I think that makes it important today. Co-ops face a lot of challenging issues, and that approach to journalism it's always been important, but I think it's as important as it's ever been today. One judge who evaluated this talked about Kentucky Living and said the following: really appreciated the Kentucky Living's ability, and I quote, to adhere to journalistic standards of presenting alternative viewpoints and both sides of an issue, adding that kind of courage helps build readers' trust. Another judge said Kentucky Living leans into its role as an advocate for the cooperative network. Now, I think the decision to lean into some sometimes controversial content can be challenging. Putting forth a great magazine on a consistent basis can be challenging. And I think one of the key ingredients for that is having strong vision and commitment of leadership. So I want to acknowledge Kentucky statewide, both CEO Chris Perry and VP of Strategic Communications Joe Arnold. I know Chris and Joe are strong advocates for the magazine, and Shannon, I'm sure you'd agree, they provide you all the support you need to put out the great product that you do. And while the award goes to Kentucky this year, I guess we've got a lot of folks from different states in here tonight. And I just want to thank you all for the type of effort, the type of quality that we see in our statewide publications. It matters. It always matters. It matters as much now as ever in terms of where we face a diverse set of circumstances and issues across the cooperative network, and communication in a more fractured communication world. Having consistent communication with our members is really something of great value to all of us. Now, I'm going to give her award, but before I give the award, you know, on the back, you know, there's no salvation in the back row because we got a video we're going to show up here. But before I give the award to Shannon, why don't we run a video to show you a few things about Kentucky living?
I think it's like a smoothie. So with a smoothie, you want it to taste good, but you also want it to be good for you. So you sneak some ingredients in there that really make it worthwhile. With a magazine, we have beautiful, wonderful, interesting content, but we also want to tell the co-op story and get that energy content in there because that's who we are. That's why we exist. As editor of Kentucky Living, I am most concerned about service to their co-ops and spreading the co-op story. It's a publication for the co-ops, for their members, and we're here to support them in their efforts.
Really, the local section in Kentucky Living is foundational for us, especially if it's a message that we need to make sure that all of our membership knows about. We start really with our CEO column in the local section of Kentucky Living. And we do that because we know it gets into every single member's home. And so really nothing else does that.
We take extra effort to include co-op members. Even if we're telling a story about gardening or about shopping or cooking, we want to interview people who are members of the co-ops because that's our audience. That's who we serve.
When I tell people about the magazine, one of the things that I try to stress is that it's a statewide publication with statewide reach that tells statewide stories, but we have this communications goal of telling the co-op story, and we do that really well.
People get excited when the first of the month rolls around and they want to see their magazine. Like a lot of times people are like, I want to see the events for the month, things like that. Or sometimes they even get upset if it doesn't arrive soon enough and they're like, I missed this event, you know?
My mom loves it whenever I have a picture in the magazine or on the cover, and the people on the cover love it as well. They want copies to give to their friends and their family. I mean, they look at it. It is a very prominent magazine that they're on the cover of.
And it really shows how Kentucky's rural communities shine. It shows the culture, it shows the people. I think it's a beautiful display of everything that is beautiful about Kentucky.
We take an all of the above approach, right? For our co-ops, we know that the priority is communicating with their members, and we want them to do that in the best form and the thing that is most effective for them. We just also happen to produce a wonderful award-winning magazine.
If we're effectively communicating for our co-ops, that's our biggest win. This award is very affirming because it just says that the rest of the country is recognizing that somehow we've been successful. Our team is an on-call agency to be able to do all those creative needs for the co-ops. And what happens, by the virtue of being involved with our co-ops and being responsive to those needs, it just makes our awareness of those needs and of what the co-ops are all about that much more amplified. So when we produce the magazine, in my opinion, it's that much better.
We have between us over 60 years of professional design experience, so we bring lots of different skills to the table. We've all worked in different environments with our design.
You know, our leadership has put a lot of effort into getting talented people to fill these roles, whether it's in our design department or our communications specialist, multimedia specialist, those positions. We have dedicated ourselves to getting prime talent into these roles.
When you own your own media outlet, and it's a trusted brand in a state, you have to use that. It is the goose that lays the golden egg every month. And thankfully, our co-ops, our local co-op board members, our co-op managers recognize that as well.
When we get out in the co-op communities and we're talking to readers, we always hear, "Oh, you're with Kentucky Living. I love that magazine."
The magazine gets sent to me every month as well, and I like looking at it. There are a couple of copies up here, so if you want to see a great magazine when we're done, we'll set them on the table and you can check it out too. But without further ado, Shannon, on behalf of NRECA, I want to congratulate you on winning the 2023 George Haggard Memorial Journalism Award. Here we go. Danny, only two? I'm impressed. Pretty good. Thank you.
All right, I brought my phone with me because that's where my notes are, Standing here in a room full of colleagues and peers, being honored as this year's Haggard Award winner is not something I take lightly. The people in this room produce quality publications month after month after month after month, and I am so honored to be recognized among you all. Kentucky Living is a strong publication for two primary reasons: our commitment to our co-ops and our fantastic, talented team. I don't do any of this alone, and I'm grateful for that. But our leadership has prioritized attracting talent and taking steps to make sure that Kentucky Electric Cooperatives is a great place to work. We love going to work every day, and I'm incredibly proud of our team and the work that we do. Our team knows its primary responsibility is not to make a magazine, it's to serve the co-ops. We strive to provide tools and resources that help the co-ops communicate with their members effectively. That said, we believe one of the best tools they have is the magazine. Our readers enjoy the magazine. They spend a lot of time with it, and they feel better about their co-op because they read it. We prioritize telling the co-op story, and we're grateful to our member co-ops for trusting us to do that. Thank you all so much for being here. All the remarks tonight have been overwhelming. We're just proud of what we do, and it's an honor to be recognized. Thank you.